Last year, Bobby Rahal, driving as an owner, partnered with Carl Hogan and took the IndyCar Championship and the PPG Cup, the symbol of the champion. That was then. Now the new season is upon us, and along with it, a winter of change. While many of the cars will carry old colors, many of the drivers made changes. It's a part of a constant search for an elusive win. Because of accidents last year, the safety experts have been hard at work making these cars that routinely ricochet off concrete walls even safer. We'll look at the new designs. It may have been a winter away from racing for the rest of us, but there is no rest for an IndyCar team. No off-season. They've been testing, and we'll get you up to date. It's all coming up in the 1993 IndyCar preview of the new season. ESPN, the world's leader in motorsports coverage, presents Speed World. This is the Chip Ganassi Racing Team in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Page. And here it's a beehive of activity as everybody is getting ready for the 1993 IndyCar season. These teams are just as excited as we as fans are. Matter of fact, the Chip Ganassi team is already looking forward to 1993, ready to put their hard-earned points on the board. Well, in the next few minutes, we're going to take some time and show you about those preparations from each of these individual teams. It's going to be a terrific year. New equipment, new faces, new people, and a lot of excitement. Of course, the first race starts at Australia at Surfers Paradise. But already, new engines and new cars are set to go. But before we consider the year coming, let's go back and take a look at the year past. Last year at Australia, the race started under clear skies, but then a tropical rain squall moved through the area, sending fans for cover and drivers spinning. As soon as the track began to dry, it was the Penske team with Emerson Fittipaldi charging on Rick Mears and then diving underneath to take the lead. Fittipaldi almost lost it, but still went on to the checkered flag, the first winner of the year. Back to the United States now, and the Valvoline 200 at Phoenix, where Michael Andretti had the pole, but his engine failed to start. Bobby Rahal picked up the lead on the very first lap and drove all the way to the checkered flag. Al Unser Jr. was looking to add to his string of Long Beach wins, but in the closing laps, he was tapped by his teammate Danny Sullivan, who went on to the checkered flag, followed by Rahal and Emerson Fittipaldi. Bobby Rahal now had the points lead. The Indianapolis 500 was the coldest day in recent memory. Michael and Mario Andretti split Eddie Cheever and took the lead early on. Then Mario caught the wall. And while leading, Michael's engine failed with just 20 miles to go. That turned the race into a two-car battle between Al Unser Jr. and Scott Goodyear. It became the closest 500 finish in history, with Al Unser Jr. on top, a second-generation win. At a new course on Belle Isle in Detroit, Paul Tracy was substituting for Rick Mears. He battled his way past Michael Andretti and picked up the lead. But as those two battled, Bobby Rahal moved up and snatched victory away from both of them. Rahal now had a solid grasp on the points lead. But at Portland, a small mistake sent Rahal sliding off the course. It took a long time to get restarted, and Michael Andretti continued his charge, taking the checkered flag and scoring the first victory for the Ford Cosworth XB engine. At Milwaukee, it was again Michael Andretti as he came flying around the outside on the start and moved up to take the lead by the end of the first lap. He would not be challenged much after that as Michael screamed to the checkered flag, beginning to climb in the point standings as well. It was a new venue in New England at Loudon, New Hampshire, and once again the focus was on Rahal and Andretti. This time, Bobby Rahal chopped at the back of Michael, took the lead, and eventually the checkered flag. It put Rahal in a strong position in PPG points. At Toronto's exhibition place, Michael Andretti beat Bobby Rahal out of the pits, and that's exactly what he needed to take the lead and the win. At the Michigan 500, the final laps came down to a battle between two Canadians, Scott Goodyear and Paul Tracy, with Scott Goodyear taking the first IndyCar win of his career. Emerson Fittipaldi won at Cleveland, and became a factor in the championship points fight. At Road America, Paul Tracy scored the first pole of his IndyCar career, then took this scary ride. In the race itself, Ray Hall and Michael Andretti were both factors until they tangled with one another on a pit stop and lost valuable seconds. The lead went over in a very tactical race to Emerson Fittipaldi, who closed even tighter in the points battle. At Vancouver, Ray Hall still had the points lead until he tangled with Stefan Johansson in a battle for second place. Ray Hall was out of the race. Michael Andretti took the win, and Ray Hall lost very valuable points. At the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, again it was a mistake of inches that sent Bobby Rahal off course into the barrier and out of the fight. But Michael Andretti fell out with mechanical problems as well. The championship fight would continue on, with Emerson Fittipaldi still closing with another win. On the oval at Nazareth, John Andretti got the scare of his life as he drove into the back of and then under another car. Fortunately, he was not injured. Bobby Rahal came home the winner, and the PPG points fight would go to the final race of the season, a three-way battle with Rahal, Andretti, and Fittipaldi. At Laguna Seca, Michael Andretti did all he could, taking the win, becoming the winningest driver of the season. But Bobby Rahal finished in third place, and that was good enough to wrap up his third PPG IndyCar title for his brand new team. For the 1993 season, there are some fascinating changes in personnel. When we come back, we'll take a look. Let's begin our look ahead now to IndyCar year 1993, where many of the key teams are staying the same, but there are some rather extensive personnel changes taking place. In the cockpits of many of the cars we're familiar with will be new helmets and new faces. Let's take a look. The True Sports team is no more, and Scott Pruitt is still looking for a seat. That Budweiser sponsorship moved to Kenny Bernstein's Kingsport team. This year, it's a full season ride for Roberto Guerrero, and the team switches from Buick to Chevy power. John Andretti also lost his ride, and the likable young Shoe is searching for a team now. The Pennzoil car will now have Teo Fabi, a proven winner in the cockpit. Remember, Teo last won in Indy cars driving for Porsche. His background is road racing. Eddie Cheever left Chip Ganassi at the end of '92 and is the new hope at Turley Racing, the former PIG team. That opened the door for Arie Luyendyk at Ganassi Racing, who drove his only race last year for Chip at the Speedway. This year, he's full-time. Robbie Gordon is now #1 at AJ Foyce with a Lola with Ford Cosworth power. Hiro Matsushita leaves Dick Simon's stable to become a second driver at Walker Motorsports. Indy Rookie of the Year last year, Lyn St. James, takes a full-time seat with Dick Simon, starting at Phoenix. Jeff Andretti, finishing a brave recovery after his Indy crash, joins the newly formed Pagan Racing team. There are some Indy Lights graduates moving up. Mark Smith will drive for Frank Arciero. Reigning Indy Lights champ Robbie Buell is on board at Dale Coyne. And Sovereign Racing picks up Brazilian Marco Greco. Mike Groff will have an interesting year as a second at Rahal Hogan and the full-time test driver for the updated True Sports design, now called the RH. Adrian Fernandez will do the same for Gallus Racing. That team now races Lolas in place of the Galmer. The surprise retirement of the Rocket puts Rick Mears in a directing role for the new full-time Penske pilot Paul Tracy. Rick expects to spend the year helping the team add to the win column. Michael Andretti is hard at work in a Formula One McLaren as he follows in his father's footsteps with a multi-year deal. But then there's the most surprising change of all. The reigning world Formula One champion will spend 1993 being pushed around by a Ford Cosworth XB. Nigel Mansell is coming to the IndyCars.
He's so good, it's unbelievable!
Crime notwithstanding, he is the most followed sports personality in Europe. Mansell had a dream season in 1992, taking the title of world champion. But then, negotiations fell apart, making his year as the Formula One world champion bittersweet. Now, he moves to the United States and the IndyCars at Newman Haas Racing, filling Michael's vacated seat. For Nigel, money was not the issue. His principles were.
Cole said, look, you know, we've got a great thing over here and the pay is great. And I'm laughing. I've got to qualify why I'm laughing, because, I mean, everyone made the biggest issue in Formula One why I didn't stay there. It's because it was about money. Well, if it was about money, what the heck am I doing here? You know, because seriously, it was several hundreds of % pay cut.
Nigel is in it for the racing, and at that he excels. His first moment in an IndyCar came in January, where he began testing extensively, first on an old airport at Firebird, then high-speed laps on the mile oval at Phoenix, unofficially breaking the lap record. That run reversed earlier concerns.
My personal confidence level coming across here really is close to zero. But my confidence level in the team and in Mario himself, and of course all the crew, is 100%. And therefore I look to them for sort of help and advice, because, I mean, as you just said, other than Long Beach, every single circuit is brand new. The cars are different, the engines are different. I'm going back to the turbo era, which I left in 1987. So, I mean, we've got to relearn quite a few things, and that's why it's so exciting and so challenging. I'm looking forward to it.
In Florida, he's close to his best friend, golfer Greg Norman. Nigel himself is close to being a scratch golfer.
It's in the hole. That was a bit better.
His first love is his wife, Roseanne, and his 3 children. This family is close-knit, and Nigel is a nurturing father. As the season begins, the focus will be on the reigning Formula One world champion as he makes the transition to IndyCars. Coming up, we'll go to some private testing sessions and find out who is going fast and how. One thing that never changes year to year in the IndyCar is the quest for safety. They want to make sure that drivers like Arie Luyendyk, who will sit in this cockpit, are always as protected as they can be. And IndyCar, the United States Auto Club, and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway all work in concert every year to assure driver safety. Now remember, last year there was a series of accidents that caused injury to drivers' feet and lower legs. Well, now they built in an additional 5 inches at the nose of the car to help absorb those high-speed impacts. Now, if Jeff will pull the nose cone off of this Lola, which, by the way, along with the rest of the tub, is made of composite material, and it must be energy-absorbing, deformable structure, so that this area of the car can absorb the impact if the car would actually tangle with a wall, and at the same time protect the driver. But then they go further on this year's design. In the cockpit itself, they've created a much larger chamber, and this has been done in cooperation with General Motors Corporation. It's been doing a lot of research on designs and actually recreated accidents from last year to give the cockpit the greatest survivability as possible. Now, every time you change a design on a race car, well, you have to go out and test it, and make sure it goes just as fast and just as far. So already, many of the teams have been on the testing trail. Long before the snow melts at Indianapolis, the IndyCar teams are hard at work putting their new chassis designs and improved engines through the rigorous paces they'll face all season. Big Springs, Texas World Speedway, Sebring, Laguna, Firebird, and Phoenix International are some of the winter training grounds where a team's season can be won or lost. The Ford Cosworth XB and 3 versions of the Chevy Indy V8, the powerhouses battling for Indy supremacy. Turley Motorsports, formerly PIG Racing, tested their new Penske Chevy with its new driver, Eddie Cheever, behind the wheel. Not only did Penske sell them the car, but the entire Penske team, drivers and all, helped them set it up. Rick Mears may have retired from racing, but he's still an integral part of the Marlboro racing team. Emerson Fittipaldi will be a top threat to win the PPG Cup with his new 93 Penske. The Penske team had a visitor from overseas at one of their early tests. Three-time Formula One champion Ayrton Senna took a few laps in his fellow Brazilian's IndyCar. Nigel Mansell is filling in Michael Andretti's Newman Haas seat quite nicely. A little wild at the start, he settled down to unofficially break 2 track records. Teo Fabi is testing in the Hall VDS team. The 83 Indy pole sitter is hoping for more success in the IndyCars. The Target Chip Ganassi racing team is hoping that their new driver, Arie Luyendyk, will be the spark they need to claim their first IndyCar victory. And Arie needs all the testing he can get after sitting out nearly the entire season of 1992. But the team has also used their testing time to shoot a new television commercial. Jack Pagan's new team, with Jeff Andretti driving, had a tremendous testing season. At Texas World Speedway, Jeff drove 234.5 miles an hour, breaking Rick Mears' unofficial oval track record and his brother Michael's Texas World Speedway record.
You went faster than your brother.
And Bobby Rahal has been preparing extra hard for 1993. He knows that everyone in the IndyCar field will be gunning for him. Coming up, we'll take a look at the career of this great IndyCar champion. Designers around the world labor for hours over drafting tables like these and on CAD/CAM computers to try and design the perfect race car. But the race car itself is useless without a skilled driver. This year, the Indy cars will be losing 2 of the greatest ever, A.J. Foyt and Rick Mears. A.J. has said that his sponsors don't want him racing anymore, and so he probably won't see a race car this year. But then in December came the greatest shock of them all, when Rick Mears announced to his team that he was retiring from racing. In May of 1991, Rick Mears became the 3rd driver in history to win 4 Indy 500s. To truly understand this great champion, we must go back to his beginnings. Bakersfield, California, where a young Rick Mears grew to be an adult and learned his love of cars from his father, Bill. From early in life, the younger Mears climbed onto or into anything with wheels. Racing came naturally to Rick. In his teens, he fulfilled his early racing dreams on dirt bikes and always seemed happiest around racing of any kind. He moved on to off-road racing and exhibited a calm behind the wheel that surprised even the veterans of the scene. Victories and then championships followed, as Rick seemed to almost easily adapt to any situation on the ever-changing 1,000-mile tracks in the desert. It was time for another step up the ladder. In 1977, Rick got a shot at Indy, but failed to qualify. He did impress Roger Penske and began driving full-time for him in '78. In '79, he started the Indianapolis 500 from the pole and finished in victory lane. In '81, Rick was badly burned in a pit fire at Indy. He carries the scars to this day. In '82, more disappointment as Gordon Johncock edged Mears out by a car length. Things seemed back on track when Rick won his 2nd Indy 500 in 1984, only his 6th attempt at the Brickyard. Then months later, at Sanair Speedway in Canada, disaster struck. The damage to Rick's legs was catastrophic. He spent more than 6 months rehabilitating, but he regained his form, and between his return in 1985 and 1987, Mears won 5 poles and 2 races. '88 marked his return to victory lane at the Brickyard. 3 down, 1 to go to make history. And in '91, the milk tasted the sweetest as the Rocket won number 4. In '92, the place that saw his greatest victories turned cruel. A terrifying crash in May left him with a fractured wrist and time to think. Rick needed surgery and missed the final 6 races of the season. It was during this time that he decided to undertake a new challenge as a director with Team Penske. Rick's driving career is now over, but his accomplishments will live forever. few have raced like the Rocket, and fewer still will ever earn the respect of this great champion. Rick's numbers are impressive, and his Indianapolis statistics are unsurpassed, but we will all always wonder what might have been. We'll be right back. When they're finally putting the decals on the new race cars, you know it's just about time to go racing. Well, they're doing that here at Chip Ganassi Racing. So let's take a look ahead to the 1993 schedule. The first race in Australia at Surfers Paradise. Then to the United States, the 1 mile oval at Phoenix, Arizona. 2 weeks later, it's on to Long Beach, California for the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. And then on May 30th, the granddaddy of them all, the Indianapolis 500. Then to Milwaukee, that fabulous Milwaukee Mile. Now on to road circuits beginning on June 13th on Belle Isle in Detroit. Then across the country to Portland and back to the Burke Lakefront Airport at Cleveland, Ohio. Now it's north into Canada to Toronto's Exhibition Place on July 18th. And then on August 1st, the Michigan 500, number 2 of the 500-mile races. On August 8th, the 1 mile oval at Loudon, New Hampshire. And then on August 22nd, at the giant Road America at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Now the Indy cars head back into Canada, to Vancouver. And then back to the United States, just north of Columbus at Lexington, Ohio, at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. On September 19th, they're on the mile at Nazareth, Pennsylvania. And on the 3rd of October, the season wraps up in Monterey, California at Laguna Seca. So now, what does the future in 1993 hold? How will Michael fare in Formula One? And Nigel Mansell, switching from Formula One to the Indy cars. Are there wins in store for this great champion? And what of the up-and-coming new stars? Who will score their first victories? And then of the veterans. Can Bobby Rahal do it again? Can he repeat? Can he score a 4th IndyCar championship? 93 holds the secrets. Driver Arie Luyendyk, engineer Morris Nunn, and team manager Tom Anderson. The conversations are focused at winning in the Indy cars. But you know, there is an adage that says, when the green flag drops, the conversations stop. Everybody have their plans, they have their dreams. Now it's time to go out and do it. I'm Paul Page. So long.